Hey guys, this is question MM063 of the Maths Methods Sharpened Study Guide. So we've got a function including all real numbers, the domain, where f of x equals negative 2e to the power of x over 2 plus 3. We need to find the rule for the inverse function f negative 1. So this question is 2 marks, which means that we need to show some sort of working. With 1 mark questions, you can just sort of answer them and not worry about the working, but with 2 marks, we've got to show some working. So let's rewrite the equation. F of x equals 2e to the power of x on 2 plus 3. So we need to write this in a short answer question. For inverse, swap x and y. We need to write this because if we don't write this and then we swap x and y to find the inverse, we've just created a random function that doesn't actually correspond to anything that's going on. So we let y equal negative 2e x on 2 plus 3, and then we swap, and we get x equals negative 2e to the power of x on 2, y on 2 plus 3. And then we solve for y. So we end up getting x take 3 equals negative 2e to the power of y on 2. We divide both sides by negative 2, which gives x take 3 on negative 2 equals e to the power of y on 2. Now, I like to get rid of the negatives in this sort of equation. So that negative goes away. This becomes 3 take x. And then we get log e of 3 take x on 2 equals y over 2. From there, we get y equals 2 log e of 3 take x over 2. Which means, and this is an extremely important step, which means that f negative 1 of x equals 2 log e of 3 take x over 2. The question has specifically asked for you to find the rule of the inverse function f negative 1, not y. This is not the inverse function, this is. So make sure you write it in this form. Your first mark, well, let's start with the second mark. The second mark is always the actual correct answer. And the first mark is actually swapping x and y to find the inverse. So our final answer is f of negative 1x equals 2 log e of 3 take x over 2. Now let's move on to part B. So we've got our domain of the inverse function f of negative 1. And that's what we want to find. So this is a 1 mark question, all good. And the domain of, this is the important rule here, the domain of the inverse function is equal to the range of the original function. So basically what we want to do is find the range of the original function if you're not familiar with the log functions. Now, I would simply go through and work out exactly what this means. So this is a negative exponential. If you draw a quick graph of it, in fact, let's deal with the inverse. So the inverse is 2 log e of 3 take x over 2, which means that there is actually an asymptote at x equals 3. And the reason why is because whenever x is 3, inside the log would be equal to 0, and we can't have a 0 inside the log. Because this x is negative here, instead of going this way like a normal log would, it's actually going this way. Now it doesn't matter what these intercepts are, all we're looking for is the domain. So the domain is actually negative infinity, because this goes forever this way, up to 3, because it never actually goes past 3. So negative infinity, make sure you always have your circle brackets for infinity, and your circle bracket for this asymptote, because it never actually reaches the asymptote, so it doesn't include that. Which means that our final answer is negative infinity to 3. And our final answer up here is inverse of x equals 2 log e of 3 take x over 2. And because this is just 1 mark, that is just 1 mark there.